Hi everyone, welcome back. You're listening to Incredible Discourse. So today's episode is going to be about Susanoo and Onamuji. We've already been introduced to Susanoo. He's the sea storm deity and the brother of Amaterasu. So today we're going to be exploring how he goes to Earth when he is expelled from heaven. If we remember the previous episode, he did a lot of damage up there. So people are going to be keeping him at a distance, and he is sent down to Earth. Not because he did a great job, but he is a storm god, so he's going to be causing some mischief, and we're going to see what kind of mischief he gets up to, and how this affects the Japanese islands, which it will, because he's a very fundamental deity and a very popular deity even to today. So we'll see how he got that reputation and where he lives. Part 1. Susanoo on Earth. Susanoo descends to Torikami, which is the name of a place on the river Hi in Izumo. Izumo is a section of what is today, it's the Shimane prefecture. So that's going to be about where Izumo historically is located. It's going to be the place where a lot of the things that take place on Earth are going to be taking place either in Yamato or in Izumo for the most part, in the next few episodes. Although we are going to be going to a few other places, but we'll get ahead of yourself. We'll get there when we get there. So, Susanoo descends to Earth. He's at the river. He's in Izumo, and he's looking at the river, and he sees a chopstick come floating in the river, and he thinks, "Oh, chopsticks floating in the river must be people upriver, because a chopstick's floating down. And if they have chopsticks, there's probably some food." So, Susanoo decides, you know what, I'm gonna go find some food, see what's going on. So he follows the river upstream, and what does he find? An old couple. He finds an old earth deity couple. So these are earth kami. And he meets this old man and old woman, and the old man, the earthly deity, is the child of the great mountain possessor, who is a direct offspring of Izanami. So he's got some weight to throw around. And Susanoo meets his daughter, the wondrous Inada princess. Or the translation for this is either the comb rice field princess, the comb or rice field. It's not very clear, but we'll see why it's potentially called the comb princess. So the old man is upset. Susanoo goes up the river, meets this old man. This old man is very clearly distraught. Something's the matter. Susanoo asks, "Hey, what's going on?" The old man tells him that a 8-forked serpent of Koshi has come to devour a daughter every year. He says, "I used to have many daughters. Every year this serpent comes, consumes one of my daughters, and I only have one daughter left, this beautiful comb princess." And it's just, he's not feeling good about it. Now he tells Susanoo that this serpent comes from a land called Koshi. And as far as we know from the text, Koshi is a vague northwestish region. It's outside of the cultural sphere of influence of the Yamato court, of the people who wrote the Kojiki. So it's someplace that's considered outside of that Yamato-controlled territory. It could be the Ainu in the north. It could be one of the islands even further north, or even parts of northern continental, the Korean Peninsula, up to what is today Russia. But what it's clear is that it's not the Japan that we're focusing on here. It's not this cultural Yamato zone. Hey, it could even be Hokkaido. So, but, that's neither here nor there. So he tells Susanoo that this serpent has 8 heads, it has 8 tails, When it lays down, it's 8 valleys and 8 hills long. It has a red belly, and its eyes are like the winter cherry or the bladder cherry. And this little, I guess it's a fruit, hidden inside like a folded leaf to give the impression of a paper lantern. That's kind of what the image they're trying to invoke. On its back, it has moss growing, cypress trees, and various false cypress trees. It's got a lot of trees growing on it. Essentially, it looks like a moving, just living chain of mountains, which in reality is kind of a horrific sight or thought. So we can see how the earthly deities don't really want to mess with it. So Susanoo decides, I'm going to save your daughter, but only if I can marry her. And the old man's taken aback. He clearly doesn't think Susanoo can do it. And he says, Susanoo, who are you? And Susanoo tells him, I don't know if you've heard of Amaterasu. That points to the sun right there. The old man realizes, oh, okay, I know what the sun is. And Susanoo says, I'm the sun's older brother. Of course I can kill this serpent, and you should let me marry your daughter. The old man believes him. I mean, it's like a half-truth. And he allows Susanoo to marry the daughter. So, as is the tradition with newlyweds, Susanoo changes Inada Hime into a comb, which is why we called her Comb Princess. Turns her into a comb, boom, sticks her in his hair. Now she's safe because she's a comb and she's sticking in his hair. Safety. And then he decides, we have to prepare if I'm going to kill this serpent, because I've heard a lot of real nasty things about this serpent. So he gets this old couple to brew up a 8 times distilled liquor, because of course Susanoo's not really going to be the one prepping. He's going to be doing the fighting. He gets his old couple, hey, I need something to knock this thing out, so I need you guys to cook that up. And then when you're done with the liquor, I need you guys to put together a gate, a massive gate. I guess it's more of a fence. A fence. A massive fence. And I want 8 gates in the fence. Yes. And this way, we can put a bowl in front of each gate, and when the serpent comes, sticks a head through each gate, drinks it, passes out, I take out my sword, I start whacking. And Susanoo has been known to cut off a couple heads and kill people with his sword. So he's pretty good at it. And he's a fairly powerful deity, so he thinks that this shouldn't be an issue, just having to hack the heads off the serpent. Now we can see this serpent kind of having a very similar mythological vibe to the Hydra, and that's kind of the vibe that we're getting from it. A Herculean task where he has to kill a large multi-headed serpent. And the plan is put into motion, and luckily for Susanoo, the serpent falls for it. It sticks each one of its head through a gate, it drinks the liquor, and passes out. Susanoo traps each head, starts whacking them off. And he's using his trusty sword, the sword that Izanagi gave him, basically. But while he's hacking through the serpent, he hits a part that his blade's just not going through. So what he does is then he pierces it, cuts a little hole, peeks inside, and oh, there's a new sword. So he pulls the new sword out, and this new sword is the Kusanagi, the grass cutter. This is actually the sword that will later become one of the 3 imperial treasured items, along with a mirror, which we've seen was used to lure Amaterasu out, and a cool bead. Beads can be cool, but it's often usually described as a precious jewel. But if you look at it, it kind of looks like a bead. And with this killing of the giant serpent, Susanoo has successfully done something good, has not messed it up. He got a wife out of it, and he decides to rest on his laurels a bit because he has succeeded in not messing up terribly. And he goes to a place called Suga and builds himself a palace. And as he's building a palace, he sings a song to himself about how great he is at building a palace and killing serpents. So now that Susanoo has his beautiful palace, he sang a song, so everyone in earshot knows how great he is, according to Susanoo. He takes a second wife, the Princess of Great Majesty, aka Kamu o Ichihime. And Susanoo and Kamu, they have two children. They have the children of, one of the children is the child of Great Harvest, and the other one is the August Spirit of Food. So, very fruitful, a lot of agrarian themes on these deities. Part of this is because the historical time period that these stories take place in is what is called the end of the Jomon into the early beginnings and basically all throughout the Yayoi period. And the Jomon period in the Japanese islands was a period in history, or I guess prehistory, like a 30,000 year period. But the end of it is characterized by hunter-gatherers, semi-sedentary, beautiful, beautiful pottery. For a non-agricultural society, the aesthetics that are put into things like bowls, various ceramics, and, well, I guess it's ceramics, like beads, things made with shells, and combs. That's what the word I'm looking for. Combs are some of the more remarkable artifacts that come from this time period. And as we go through the Kojiki, we will see lots of mirrors, we'll see lots of combs, we'll see lots of agriculture, because during the Yayoi period, we get this transition now from a semi-sedentary hunter-gatherer society into a agricultural society. So we'll see this shift, and a lot of these deities reflect that shift. Rice agriculture comes in. Fun fact, because why not have it here? Rice as a cultivated crop originates from where, I guess, the nation we would call Vietnam today. But that's where rice comes from. So next time you're in Vietnam, thank them for rice. So anyway, back into the story. Susanoo and Inada, his first wife, have a bunch of children. So they have a child called the Eight Island Ruler. Boom. Eight Island Ruler has a child called Foha no Moji Kuno Suno. They have a child called the Water Spoilt Blossom. They have a child called the Great Water Master. Great Water Master. Great Water Master has a child called the Heavenly Brandishing Prince Lord. And finally, the Heavenly Brandishing Prince Lord has Onamuji. Onamuji is the character, hero, some would say, that we're now going to be following. Onamuji has a bunch of statues all throughout the lands. And by the lands, I mean Japan. You can find statues of Onamuji today in Japan, often seen with a rabbit. And we'll get into that. So, in addition to Onamuji being born, he also had 80 deity siblings. So, 80 siblings. They're all deities, so 80 deity siblings. And these siblings put Onamuji in charge of taking care of the land. And this is basically doing like chores when they were out doing other things. Kind of like a Cinderella. And similar to Cinderella, all of the 80 siblings fell in love with the Princess of Yakami, Inaba. And because they all fell in love with her, they all wanted to marry her, they all put Onamuji in charge of doing the not the useless tasks, but the less desirable tasks, while they set out to try to win her heart. But then they realized, we need someone to carry our food for us, so Onamuji, you're coming with us. And they all set out to find the Princess of Yakami. Meanwhile, there is a hare like the rabbit. And it was in Oki, and it needed to cross the water. So, and this is going to lead back, don't worry. I know you're like, hey, we were really into this Onamuji character, but we'll get back to him. The hare is important. Remember I said the statues of Onamuji? There's a rabbit in most of them? Well, this is the rabbit. The white hare of Inaba, similar to the princess's name, the white hare of Inaba. So the hare's in Oki and needs to get across the water. So it goes over, and it's a bit of a trickster, and it gazes across the water and sees a crocodile. And what's tedious about what the text says about this crocodile is that the use of the term crocodile in these ancient texts, and the Kojiki and other texts of this period, is that it's not very clear what animal it correlates to in real life, if there is a real animal that this is supposed to be, because it's sometimes translated as a crocodile and it's sometimes translated as a shark. So the translation's not really clear, and there's lots of commentary on how the animal is sometimes lives in swampy areas, it sometimes lives in the ocean. Anyway, we'll go with a sharky crocodile looking creature. So we'll call them crocodiles. It's just easier. So the beautiful white hare, I guess he's a little plucky rabbit, he needs to get across. He spies a crocodile. He goes over and he says, "Hey, there's more hares than there are crocodiles in the world." And this crocodile, he gets upset. He's like, "What are you talking about? There's tons more crocodiles in the world than there are hares. And plus, we'd just eat you." So the hare said, "Well, I know how many hares there are in the world, but I don't think you know how many crocodiles there are." And the crocodile says, "Hey, well, no, okay, all right, you're right. I don't know how many crocodiles there are, but I could get everyone here and we could count." And the hare says, "That's a great idea. You know what you should do? You should line up from here all the way across the water to the other side. And this way, I can jump across you and I can count each way. And when I get across, I can tell you how many there are." And the crocodile, not being too smart, decides to get all of his crocodile buddies, and they line up and create a bridge for the white hare of Inaba. And the rabbit proceeds to hop, hop, hop across all of the crocodiles. But it makes the terrible mistake of right at the end, right when he's got 2 or 3 crocodiles left that he's hopping on, he starts to make fun of them. He starts telling them, "You know what? I just did this to trick you, and you're a bunch of dumbasses." And right at that moment, the last crocodile nips him and manages to just bite him. He gets him. And it says that he's stripped of some of his hair and some of his fur, his clothing, his coat. So by the time he crawls away from the shore, he's not feeling too good. He's pretty beat up. But luckily, as he crawls away, he sees a troop of 80 deities coming by. And he's beat up. He's not looking too good. And he calls out to them and says, "Hey, help me. I'm a poor little rabbit. I've been messed up. What should I do?" So the brothers, all 80 of them, tell him that the rabbit should go splash some salt water on him, go to the top of the mountain, and dry himself off in the sun. Which the rabbit proceeds to do, gets to the top of the mountain. As he starts drying, it's salt water, so all of the salt starts to burn his skin as it dries and cracks his skin. And he's left there lying in more agonizing pain than when the 80 deities came by in the first place. And they proceed to they walk off laughing and mocking the poor little rabbit. But then Onamuji comes by and sees this little rabbit suffering at the top of a mountain, still not clear. And he sees this rabbit and goes over and says, "Rabbit, how can I help you?" The rabbit says, "I'm just suffering so much." Onamuji, looking at the situation, says, "You need to go wash yourself off in a stream with fresh water, and then when you dry, I can give you some ointment to help you out." So the white hare of Inaba proceeds to follow Onamuji's advice, washes the salt off, starts feeling better. Onamuji gives him some ointment. He's all fixed up. And the rabbit is he's just so thankful that Onamuji stopped and helped him out. And he just wanted to see, what Onamuji was up to, if he knew who those people were that came by before. Onamuji tells him that his brothers are going to court the princess of Yakami, the princess of Yakami in Naba. And he's like, "Oh, Well, lucky day for you because I'm the white hare of Inaba. So what the rabbit does is he sneaks off and secretly arranges a marriage between Onamuji and the princess of Yakami. The problem is that the brothers also hear about this because when they get there, they propose and she tells them that, no, I can't marry any of you. I've been promised to your brother Onamuji. And this outrages them. So, like any good loving brothers would do, they plot to murder Onamuji. Sarcasm. But they do. They plot to murder him. So they go back because Onamuji's still carrying all of their stuff. So they go back to meet him before he gets to where the princess is. And they meet him at the foot of a mountain. And they come and they grab Onamuji, put your stuff down. We need your help. We're hunting a red boar. The greatest red boar. It's a magic red boar. We got to catch it. We're going to hunt it down. We've seen it in this mountain right here, and we need your help. Also, if you don't do it, we're going to kill you. Which, as we go through the story, it kind of is a self-defeating threat. So they say, what we're going to do is we're going to go up the mountain, and we're going to flush the boar down. And what we need you to do is just to catch it, and then we'll come over and we'll spear it. So Onamuji says, yeah, perfect, fine. I'll get here. I'll get ready to catch the boar when you chase it down the mountain. So the brothers go up. They find the biggest boulder they can. And what they do is they essentially bake it they burn it. So they take this rock, they add fire to it, they get it glowing hot, and they just roll it down the mountain. And they yell to Onamuji, 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 there's the fire boar. Catch it. And Onamuji's like, oh, shit, I did not know it was going to be on fire. I mean, you said red, but, oh, okay, I'm going to catch it. So he does catch it, and then he dies because he gets crushed by a giant burning boulder. So Onamuji's dead now, and his mother hears about this. So she ascends to heaven to kind of find a way to resurrect her son. And she finds Princess Cockleshell and Princess Clam, and she sends them on a mission to go and resurrect her son. So Princess Cockleshell and Princess Clam head down. Princess Cockleshell takes some burnt shells, and starts mashing them up to make a fine powder. And then Princess Clam gets some water. They mix it and create a paste, a salve, if you will. And they use it, they rub it all over Onamuji's kind of useless dead body, and boom, he comes back to life. And he continues on his journey, trying to get to see the princess of Yakami. But unfortunately, his brothers find him again, and what they do is murder him. Murder him again. They find a large tree, they split it in half, they pop him inside, and they crush him to death. So, once again, Onamuji is killed. So his mother goes back to heaven, gets Princess Cockleshell, gets Princess Clam, they do their magic, boom, Onamuji, he's back on his feet. I don't know, I don't want to say he's, not worse for wear, but he's better. He's alive. He's kicking. But his mother tells him, hey, Onamuji, you can't be hanging out with your brothers anymore because they're going to keep killing you. So she sends him to the land of Ki to see the great house prince, son of Susanoo, a.k.a. his great-great-great uncle, because Susanoo is also his ancestor. You see how we're connecting that there? Look at us, tying things up. But he's going to go visit his great-great-great uncle. And the 80 deities see him trekking off to go see his uncle, and they start shooting arrows at him, but Onamuji, remembering arrows kill you, decides to dodge them, and he doesn't get killed by arrows, which is one of the few times he's not going to be killed in the story. So that's a plus. And Onamuji journeys to the land of Ki. And speaking of Ki, there's a Japanese bookstore called Kinokuniya, which is a reference to the ancient land of Ki. I mean, Ki is just tree, but Wakayama prefecture used to be called Ki, and the Kinokuni, right? Kinokuni, the country of trees, is a reference to that old province of the Japanese islands, which is now Wakayama. And that's a fun fact right there. So Onamuji goes to Ki, not Kinokuniya, but if he could, he probably would. He goes off to the land of Ki and sees the great house prince. And the great house prince hears his story and he listens to it. And hearing it gives Onamuji the advice, you should probably just go see Susanoo. I mean, he's going to be able to help you. He can help you. I can't help you. Your brothers are probably going to find you and kill you again. So go see Susanoo. He's good at that. So Onamuji, with the questionable advice from the great house prince, travels on to see Susanoo. And luckily for Onamuji, Susanoo built a giant palace at Suga. Remember he sang about it? And it's really easy to find. As Onamuji approaches it, he finds a daughter of Susanoo, which would technically be his great aunt. Yes, great, 4 grades. Because Susanoo is Onamuji's great grandfather. Yes. So he meets this lovely lady outside of the Grand Suga Palace and decides, you know what? We're going to get married. Boom. They're wed. There's not a real strong translation for what exactly defines marriage in this text, but that's how it's translated, and that's what we're going to look at. And that's how we're going to conceptualize it here. But in the text, I will say, they do exchange glances. That's what it says. It says they exchange glances, and boom, married. It's a very intimate glance. So now that Onamuji and forward princess are wed, they go inside to see Susanoo, because that's why Onamuji came there in the first place. Not to get wed, but to get not dead. And Susanoo, hearing that his daughter and his great grandson just got married, he's not too happy. So what he does is he says, you know what, Onamuji, you can stay here, but tonight you're going to have to go sleep in the Viper House. And sadly enough, it's not a cool themed room that's just cool vipers and race cars. It's just poisonous snakes. And upon hearing this, Onamuji really thinks he's going to get killed again, because that's kind of what he does. He gets himself into trouble and then dies. But luckily for him, he's now a married man. And married men tend to live longer than single men, and Onamuji is no exception. So his wife, forward princess, comes over and says, hey, Onamuji, you're kind of useless, so here's what I did for you. Got you this scarf, you shake it at the snakes leave you alone. Please don't die. Please don't die. So Onamuji makes his best effort to get killed, goes into the snake house, lays down, sleeps. At night, all the snakes come out. He wakes up, freaks out. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Luckily, he remembers he's got that scarf. Takes the scarf out, shaky, all the snakes go away. Boom. And the next morning comes. Onamuji leaves the snake house, goes to Susanoo, says, good morning. What do we got for today? They do whatever they do during the day. Kind of glanced over in the book, and Susanoo invites Onamuji to stay another night. Onamuji, I've got a better place. I know the snakes were a little rough. Don't worry. Snakes, you don't have to worry about them, because I've got you a new dwelling to sleep in tonight, and it is the centipede wasp house, full of centipedes and wasps. But maybe it's not. It is, though. And the centipedes that he's referring to are what's called mukade. And mukade are a special breed of centipedes that live in Japan. They get anywhere between, I don't want to say like 4 inches to like almost a foot. From what I've seen and heard, I think they can get almost to a foot. That's a huge mukade, but let's say around like 5-6 inches long, these things get. And they bite you and they're venomous. And it's not enough to kill you as a person, but it'll give you like a really bad hangover sensation. But they do have enough venom to kill like a small dog or a cat. So you got to be careful about them. And when you squish them, right? So if you see mukade in your house, you can't crush it, because if you crush it, it starts to release pheromones that draw more mukade to your house. And if you get bit by a bunch of them, they could then start to cause a need to worry. Anyway, mukade, venomous, large, creepy insect. Other part, the wasp. And you're like, a wasp? What's a wasp going to do? I mean, it stings and they're scary and there's a ton of them. But this isn't any just ordinary, honeybee. These are the suzumabachi, a.k.a. giant Asian hornet. And these things are venomous. Very venomous. Like, you get stung and you almost die venomous. So if Onamuji is going into a house full of mukade and suzumabachi, then he's most likely going to die, because as we see in the past, Onamuji, one of his favorite hobbies is being killed for some reason. And similar to the theme of married men living longer, Forward Princess comes to his rescue and gives him another scarf. She's, comes up, she says, "Hey, Onamuji, please don't die. Take this scarf, you know what to do, shake, shake, don't die." Real simple. Onamuji goes into the hut, sleeps there at night. He's about to be brutally consumed by insects, takes out a scarf, safe. Lives to the morning, everyone's happy. Except Susanoo, because Susanoo has been trying to kill this man. Well, in the morning, Onamuji goes out, meets with Susanoo. Susanoo says, "Onamuji, you've done such a great job not dying in the places I've given you to sleep, that I don't think I'm going to try to kill you at night anymore." And Onamuji's thinking, "Oh, this is great. No one's going to try to murder me while I sleep anymore with poisonous animals." But unbeknownst to him, he says, I just need one small favor from you." And Onamuji says, "Of course, whatever you need." Susanoo takes an arrow. It's a whistling arrow. Draws the bow. Boom. Arrow goes flying into the moor. Lands in the middle of a moor. Think of a moor as like a wild piece of uncultivated land. Susanoo says, "I just need you to go fetch that arrow. That's all I need. And we're going to be good. Promise, get the arrow. Don't have to worry about it." So, Onamuji sets out, figures, I just got to go to the moor, pick up the arrow, bring it back. As he gets into the moor, Susanoo sets it on fire. Boom. Sets it ablaze, surrounding Onamuji. Onamuji looks around and realizes, I'm going to burn to death. That's what's happening here. I got this arrow, and I'm going to die. And Onamuji knows a thing or two about being killed by fire, and he is not a fan. So he's looking around. He sees a little mouse coming by. And he says, "Hey, mouse, we're going to die. Do you got any escape plan?" Mouse says, "Onamuji, you're kind of annoying, but I'm going to find a place for you to stay. Come with me. My family, we live in this little hole. It'll be great. You're not going to burn to death." So Onamuji follows the mouse into his mouse house, and they all have tea while the moor burns around them, and they are safe. We cut to not the next day, but when the fire is finished burning the moor to the ground, and Susanoo and Forward Princess walk out into the moor, or the previously burned moor. Forward Princess, for all that she'd tried to keep her very killable husband alive, is now out with her funeral preparations. So Susanoo and Forward Princess go to mourn on the moor. But luckily for Forward Princess, Onamuji pops out of a little mouse house, right? Mouse house. And he's got the arrow. He goes over to Susanoo. "Susanoo, got you this arrow. Got a little hot in there for a little while, but I managed to make it through." Susanoo, this time, is actually quite impressed that Onamuji managed to not die without help from his very competent wife. So Susanoo invites him into one of his large halls, and he says, Onamuji, you did a great job, so I just need you to just pick some lice out of my hair, because what are great, 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 great grandfathers for, if not to pick lice out of their hair? And Onamuji, accepting it, decides, you know what, I'll go for it. I'll just do it. And it turns out that the lice aren't actually lice, they're mukade. So, once again, forward princess coming in, saving Onamuji, because Onamuji, at this point, if we've seen in the story, isn't really... he's not good at things. Like, he's nice, and he's, like, kind and benevolent, but, you know, he tries. He does his best. Bless his heart. So Forward Princess gives Onamuji a handful of dirt and a handful of berries that she's picked. She says if you chew on them and spit it out, Susanoo will think that you're picking the mukade out, you're just biting their heads off, and then you're spitting out the guts. And Susanoo will be impressed, because it takes a lot of guts to bite into a living mukade. And this is the moment when Onamuji finally starts to shine. His tama starts showing. Tama is a word not only meaning a bead or a jewel, which is one of the sacred 3 relics of the imperial family, but it's also the name of it's a term used for the special potency that kami have. So his tama would be his natural potency. And this is where Onamuji's natural potency, his tama, starts to really kick in. So what he does is he waits till Susanoo falls asleep. And then he takes Susanoo's hair and he goes and he ties it to the various pillars of the hall. And then takes the largest rock he can find, a rock that takes 1,000 men to move. And he just puts it right on top of him. And then he goes and steals Susanoo's stuff, like his sword of life, his bow of life, his arrows of life, and his prophetic lute. So he grabs all of this lute. You see what he did there? His lute is lute. It's a lute, like lute the instrument. See, you get it. So he takes the swords, all of the new equipment he's got. He takes his fancy new musical lute, and he takes his new bride, his new old bride. He takes Forward Princess, and they are off. But Onamuji can't really do anything without something going wrong. And as they're sneaking away, the prophetic lute gets caught on a branch, and bong, a string is plucked. And this string, for some reason, just the string, wakes up Susanoo. And Susanoo looks around, and realizing that he's been tied down, a big rock has been put on him, just starts breaking everything. He turns his head and it starts cracking the pillars. He throws the rock that's on top of him off, and as he gets up and basically destroying his bonds, proceeds to pursue Onamuji. And Onamuji does what he does best. He decides to think, if I was dead, where would I go? Hades, the underworld. So what happens is Onamuji heads over to the underworld, aka the Yellow River. That's a callback from the previous episode. And eventually Susanoo catches up, but he can't really get into the underworld because he has nothing to help him sustain his life. Whereas Onamuji has a life sword and a life arrow and some life bow, a life bow and some life arrows. So he can get in and he can traverse the underworld with relative ease. And once Susanoo gets to that point where he can no longer follow, he yells to Onamuji and says, "You should just kill your brothers." And Onamuji hears that and thinks, you know what? Maybe I should go kill all of my brothers. Susanoo then reminds him that although they are his siblings, technically they're only his half-siblings, and that Onamuji's parents were a legitimate couple, where Susanoo is now telling him that those other 80 deities are birthed from illegitimate parents. So, Onamuji takes his life sword, takes his life bow, takes his prophetic lute, and he decides to go and basically kill Bill all of his brothers. And that's what happens. Once all of his brothers are killed, Onamuji then settles down and, very similar to his great descendant / attempted murderer / I guess good advice giver, Susanoo, he builds a beautiful palace for himself. A palace that's rooted in the rock and elevated to heaven. Also, Forward Princess lives there with him too. And with Onamuji taking over the land, he becomes the master of the land, sometimes referred to as Okuninushi, the land creator. And he is now being tasked with the commission of heaven to create the land, to continue the creation of the islands, which was started by the initial deities. But this is where we're going to cut it for today. I hope you enjoyed the adventure through the story of Susanoo and Onamuji. If you liked it, please, let me know. Send me an email. So my email is incrediblediscourse@gmail.com. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please send me an email. If you do send questions or comments, I'll probably make a little segment where I address them, or even do a little side episode where I look at different topics. Or if you have a topic or something of interest that you think would make a good episode, let me know. If you found something highly offensive or wrong with the episode, and you're like, oh, I have an issue with this aspect of it, let me know. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. Let's have a productive and open discourse. I like to think that, we can establish a credible discourse, but you know what? I'll take any discourse. No, I take that back. I'll take any productive discourse. So we should keep it productive. If you got anything to say, let me know. I'm also on Twitter at increddis. I think that's just it. Increddis. Whatever Twitter thing at increddis. That's me. You'll see a picture of my head. Boom. On a little tanuki body. And that's about it for today. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. This podcast is not recorded in front of a live studio audience. It's recorded in the closet. Closet in my house where I'm by myself. Thank you very much for listening.